All right, we are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for October 15th. Hopefully you're having a good one. I'm having a good one. And today, as always, I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering any questions or topics of discussion related to fitness, nutrition, building muscle, losing fat, and helping you to get in your best shape. So if you have any questions that you would like to discuss, post them into the chat window there to the side, and I'll do the best that I can to help you during our video chat today. And just let me know who's tuned in. I see we've got Dan joining in. We got Empaz. We got missing flying air. Okay, Lee's joining in. Hey, how you doing? Welcome. I'm just hang out here for a second or two, let a few people pop onto the live chat. Hopefully you're having a good one. Good stuff. And let me know where you're tuning in from, right? What neck of the woods are you tuning in from? And what time is it in your local area? And of course, if you're new to these video chats, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in. Recognize a lot of the regulars here. We got Ray joining in as well. Welcome, Ray. Good stuff. Now, one thing that I want to address before I get into answering your questions, and this is a common theme that I hear over and over again, especially with my personal coaching students who are going through the Muscle After 40 blueprint, is a lot of times when it comes to fitness and nutrition and whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's trying to build muscle, whether it's trying to lose body fat or achieving a body recomposition, which is basically losing fat and building muscle at the same time. One of the things I find a lot of people struggle with, it's not so much knowing what to do. Like everybody knows what to do to a certain extent, but it's getting yourself to actually take action and do what you know. And this is where it can get challenging, especially when you're busy with everything. You know, you got your career, you got your family, you got responsibilities, you've got other hobbies and things that are pulling at your time. And very often our health and fitness gets pushed down the priority list. And like at the end of the day, everything else gets done, but your fitness and nutrition is the thing that's the lagging behind. It's this kind of like, oh, I'll get around to it if I have time or if I can do it or whatever. And a lot of times it gets pushed off. And that's unfortunate. So sometimes you have to rearrange your priorities and put your own health and fitness up there in the priority list. Just the same as you would like putting your job up there and your family up there and everything else. And I know that may seem a bit selfish to some people, but that's what's required in order to achieve success when it comes to reaching your health and fitness and muscle building and fat loss goals. And even though it may seem selfish, it's actually not. It's actually one of the best things that you can do, not just for yourself, but for everybody around you. Because if you are healthy, if you're fit, if you're strong and energetic, it's going to help to improve your performance at work. It's going to make you a better father. It's going to make you a better husband. It's going to just make you a better person to be around. And not only that, if you can maintain longevity and health and fitness over the long term, you're not going to become a burden to those around you. And we see this all the time. And I'll give you a prime example of this. Like, how often have you seen the man of the house taking care of everybody else, but neglecting his own health and fitness in the process? And while that may work in the short term, eventually it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Because what often happens is if you start to develop some health issues, then what was you were once the breadwinner, the provider, the man of the house, and now all of a sudden you can't even take care of your own self. And you have to be a burden to others, and other people are going to be looking after you. And I see this over and over again. And it's unfortunate when it happens. And I don't want that to happen. I mean, it's going to happen to us all eventually, but we want to kind of prolong the quality of our life for as long as we can and milk it for what it's worth. I mean, heck, we're only going through this world once. Why not make it the best that you possibly can and enjoy the process, right? So milk it for what it's worth. So one thing that I find that is very helpful when it comes to achieving your fitness and fat loss goals, especially if you find that it's overwhelming and it's difficult to follow through with, is focus on one thing, just one thing. And instead of trying to do everything at once, thinking, oh, I got to overhaul my entire diet. I got to have take all these supplements. I got to get the perfect workout routine, the perfect cardio plan. I got to have this and that. And like everything, I got to have all my ducks in a row and the perfect schedule and everything perfect. Just focus on one area which you feel is the biggest bottleneck that's holding you back right now at this stage. And I actually had a coaching call with one of my students today. And his nutrition is pretty much on par. Like he's made some good nutrition, lifestyle habit changes over the past several months that we've been working together. So he feels that he has his nutrition down pat. He works a physically demanding job. So he's on his feet a lot. So he's getting a lot of general activity in that sense. But the big thing that is his bottleneck is he hasn't been dedicating enough time to quality, structured strength training workouts. So getting a lot of general activity, a lot of cardiovascular activity because he works outdoors, so he's on his feet. So that kind of takes care of the getting your steps in, your cardiovascular activity from that point of view. The nutrition, once you make those habit changes, that doesn't really take any more time. I mean, you still have your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. It's just what are you eating at those meals, right? You make better choices or you make poor choices. And once you understand how to do this, it doesn't take any more time. And in fact, it probably even takes less time to make good choices than it does to make poor choices. But in his case, the bottleneck was the workouts. And what I suggest, and I've done this for several of my coaching students, just nail down a very simple workout routine. Maybe some sort of like little total body circuit routine that you're going to do at the gym, or maybe it's a home workout that you're going to do if you're training from home, but focus on that one thing. That is your one priority, and master that before you start overloading yourself with, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and this, and making it too big and end up not doing anything. Because this is a common mistake that a lot of people make, and I'm guilty of this as well. If you make it too big and you're trying to get the perfect program, very often that leads to procrastination. It's like the analysis by paralysis, and you're overloaded, overwhelmed, and you end up doing nothing. Right? Because it's too much. I can't do it. I'm too busy. I'll get around to it later. Right? I'll do it when I'm not so busy. I'll do it when everything's perfect. And the reality is it's never going to be perfect because once you finish whatever is keeping you busy now, there's going to be other challenges. There's going to be other tasks and other responsibilities and other things pulling at your time. So just focus on one thing and trying to keep that simple and master that one thing that's holding you back. So you have to really ask yourself, like, what is that for you? If it's the nutrition, then focus on that. And even break it down to smaller levels. Like instead of trying to change your entire diet, how about we say, you know what? I'm going to have a good breakfast. I'm just going to nail down, like for the next week or two, I'm just going to really prioritize breakfast and make sure that I have a good, healthy breakfast every day to start the day off on the right track and kind of build that positive momentum. And this is what we want. We want to build momentum so that can lead and carry over into other areas. Because if you have negative momentum, like you're in a hurry and you skip breakfast and you grab something you shouldn't and whatever, and you skip a workout and this and that, it kind of derails you, and then it spirals out of control. And then it's like, oh, screw it, I'll start again later. I'll start again on Monday. Whereas if you can just nail down, say, a good breakfast ritual, a good habits that you follow along with, and nail that, then that's going to give you the momentum and carry you through throughout the rest of the day. Maybe it's the workouts. Maybe every morning you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to do a 20-minute workout routine. Maybe it's a little home workout that you do, or maybe you go to the gym and you do a workout, but you get that done just to kind of lay that foundation, get that momentum moving, even if it's simple, right? Simple is fine. It doesn't have to be complicated. And that's one of the big things that I kind of have to keep drilling into a lot of the coaching students that I'm working with is it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be good enough, but good enough consistently. And once you master that, it's amazing the level of progress that you can make once you start making these simple changes. So that's something that you can really look at now for yourself over the next week is where are you holding yourself back? Like what's the one area that needs the most attention, and just focus on that. Don't get bogged down with everything else. Just focus on that one area until you get that mastered. And then once you get that mastered, and it's just habit and default now, then you can focus on another area that you feel is lagging behind and holding you back, and just take it in small, manageable, bite-sized chunks. And this is a very powerful tactic. It really is. And if you do that, I'm telling you, you'll start to build that positive momentum and start to see some changes, not only in your physical changes, but how you feel about yourself. And once you start feeling better about the process, that's going to carry over and then snowball and just help to spiral things to another level. So it's a good strategy to implement. And to kind of really break this down on a simple level, a lot of times people say, well, I know what to do, right? I know what to do when it comes to workouts, and I know what to do when it comes to, nutrition and everything else. I just know what to do, but I'm not doing it, right? I mean, I hear this all the time. And to kind of give you an analogy, just think of someone who's trying to quit smoking, right? Like just visualize that, a smoker who's trying to quit. They know how to quit. Like, quitting smoking is one of the easiest things in the world to do. Anybody can quit smoking. Everybody knows how to quit smoking. All you have to do is stop putting cigarettes in your mouth. If you stop putting cigarettes in your mouth, boom, instantly, you are a non-smoker. That's how simple it is. In fact, you don't even need to do anything. You just have to stop putting cigarettes in your mouth. That's it. So knowing what to do isn't what's holding you back. It's actually committing to that process and having a system in place where you can follow through and doing it. Same applies with fitness and nutrition. Like, everybody knows they should exercise. Everyone knows they should eat better, drink more water, get more sleep, and make better choices throughout their lifestyle and things like that. But why aren't you doing it, right? A lot of times it's not the knowledge of knowing what to do. It's your self-identity. And how you go about changing that self-identity usually has to start with small baby steps, building up small habits one at a time and just letting that compound. Instead of trying to overhaul and change everything, just make some small baby steps, some small changes, and then let that compound and build the momentum that way. So this whole idea of focusing on one thing that's holding you back can really make a big difference for you. All right, so just wanted to share that with you, and see we got a lot of people joining in right now, and I'm going to get right into it now. Let's see what we got. We have M. Paz. Thank you for the support. Just has a question there that popped up along with a support there to the super chat. Much appreciated. Question saying, any insight on binge eating avoidance? Nighttime eating of various different things has always been my problem. Is it just self-control? That is a fantastic question, and I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this right now who can relate to this. I can relate to this. I'm as guilty as anybody for falling into the trap of, those nighttime snacks and urges. And this is when our willpower and our temptation and everything else is kind of like at its lowest, because early in the day when you're busy and you got things to do, it's easy to avoid eating, right? Like, I mean, of eating the bad stuff, that is, because I mean, you're running around, you're doing your job, you're doing your chores, you're doing your errands and everything else. But then in the evening, when you sit down and you unwind, maybe you're going to kick back and watch some television, or you're going to kick back and watch some videos on YouTube or whatever it is that you're doing. And you're just relaxing. That's when the cravings hit, and you have the time to eat. And I mean, I'm as guilty as the next person. I sometimes find myself just looking in the refrigerator, rummaging around. Hey, what's in here to eat? Even though I'm physically not hungry, I just want to eat, right? I mean, I'm as bad as anybody when it comes to that. And the biggest piece of advice I can give you on this is try not to think of avoidance and having a void, because you can't sustain a void. If you try and just simply, I'm not going to eat, right? I'm not going to eat in the evenings. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. It's bad, blah, blah, blah. That relies on willpower, and you might be able to get away with it for the short term, but willpower is a finite resource. It's very limited, right? It's the most precious resource you have, and we don't have endless amounts of willpower. Right? It's easy to run out of willpower. And you see this all the time whenever anybody starts a new diet program, starts a new workout. It relies a lot on willpower in those initial phases. And if you don't create systems and habits to sustain it so that it becomes automatic, and you're always relying on willpower to get you moving, then very often what happens is once you hit your threshold where you run out of willpower, that's when you're going to give in and say, you know what? In a moment of weakness, you're going to say, oh, I can't do this. Screw it. I'm just going to give in to whatever cravings I have. And then I'll start again on Monday, right? So, like, prime example, it's Friday evening. Let's just say you give in to those cravings now on Friday evening. you're going to blow it, and then you're going to feel guilty about yourself, right? Because you might have done all well, right? Monday to Thursday, hey, I was on track, I was doing good and everything else, but now Friday evening rolls around, and in a moment of weakness, you give in and you eat something you shouldn't. Maybe you order a pizza, maybe you crack open a bag of potato chips, or you're getting into the candy jar, or whatever it is for you. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh man, I knew I couldn't do this. I screwed up again. What's the point? And you say, I'll start again on Monday. And now what's going to happen? You're going to binge on Friday night. You're going to binge all day Saturday because you want to get those cravings out of the system because, hey, you're going to start a diet on Monday, start again on Monday. So get all those cravings out of the system now, right? I've even heard guys say like, oh, I made sure to drink all the beer that was in the fridge over the weekend because I was going to start again on Monday, right? So, I mean, you purposely slam back all this junk and crap over the weekend so that you can start again. And this is actually setting you back big time. It really is. So I've got a couple strategies for you. One, when you do get off the rails, like let's just assume all hell breaks loose and you eat and you eat and binge and whatever on stuff that you know you shouldn't. Instead of beating yourself up, forgive, correct, and continue. Like, it's okay. You're only human. Everybody screws up. Everybody cheats on their eating from time to time. Everyone skips workouts from time to time. Don't make a big deal of it. Just like, who gives a shit? Forgive, correct, and continue, and get back on track for your very next meal. Or at the very least, the very next day. Like, don't let it spiral out of control. Don't let it become a start again on Monday scenario, because you can do a lot of damage over a weekend. You can literally undo an entire week of diet and exercise over a weekend binge. And I've been guilty of this myself. I've done it over and over again. And that's why a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they say, oh, I eat healthy, right? I'm exercising and everything else, but I lose it on the weekends. Why am I still struggling? It's because you can cancel out the damage. You can cancel out the progress all week from the damage that's done on the weekends. So get back on track for your very next meal whenever you do screw up. That's one strategy. And if you just did that alone, that would make a huge difference. But to get to the actual root here of binge eating and snacking in the evenings, what you want to do is not stop it entirely, but make better choices. So instead of leaving a void and saying, I'm not allowed to snack in the evening, I'm not allowed, and having this relying on willpower and deprivation, how about we just make better choices? So we're going to fill the void with a better option. And I'll give you some examples that I use. Like, I love to sit down and snack when I'm watching a movie, right? That's one thing I just love doing. But one option that I have, I like to get air popped popcorn. So I've got an air popper, and I'll pop up a big bowl of air popped popcorn. And the serving that my air popper makes, it works out to about 200 calories. So I make a big bowl of air popped popcorn. It's like 200 calories in this big ass popcorn bowl. And then I'll put some popcorn seasoning over the top. It's this, I sometimes get like the cheddar cheese flavor that you can pick up at the grocery store and just sprinkle over to give it a little bit of taste. But very low calories, very low in fat, very high in volume. So, I mean, it gives me that snacking satisfaction. And very often I'll wash that down with, say, like flavored sparkling water or some 0-calorie drink of some sort like that. And this can satisfy that craving of wanting to snack while I'm watching television. And this is very often what I do. So that's one of my evening snack choices, is a big bowl of air pop popcorn. So instead of grabbing potato chips, or instead of grabbing candy or trail mix or some other high calorie dense food, cakes or cookies or whatever it is, I'll have that big bowl of air pop popcorn. Right, that's a good one. Another one that's a good choice as well, and this is one that I used a lot, especially back when I was getting ready for my bodybuilding show that I did back in July, is sugar-free Jell-O, right? You can buy this at the grocery store, just the packets of sugar-free Jell-O, sugar-free jelly, depending on where you live. I mean, like, I know in the UK, they usually refer to it as jelly. In North America, we call it Jell-O, but same thing, you know. This is an awesome diet hack, if you will, because first off, I mean, there's very low calories. Now, there's no nutritional value in it, right? I mean, it's just artificial sweeteners and flavorings, but it gives you the sensation that you're actually eating something, but you're not. And like in a packet of sugar-free Jello, there's like 40 calories. So you can mix up a big bowl of this, like do it in advance. It doesn't take that long to set it. I usually mix it up, set it in the freezer. Probably takes an hour or something like that to set. So sometimes like after I finish my dinner in the evening and I know I'm going to want a snack later in the evening, then what I'll do is I'll mix this up, just put it in the freezer, and then I'll have it ready. And to even add extra volume and extra flavor to that big bowl of sugar-free Jello, when I'm mixing it up, I'll sometimes put in like frozen berries, like raspberries and blackberries and blueberries, whatever. I buy the big bags of frozen berries, mix that up. And then sometimes I'll even throw in a bit of like fat-free cottage cheese or fat-free Greek yogurt, stir that in with it as well to kind of give it almost like a custard type texture when I mix it all up. And this gives you like a big bowl of dessert. That's what it tastes like, but it's super low in calories and it's very high in volume. So it gives you that sensation that you're actually eating something sweet, but you're not. I mean, it's sugar-free. It's almost like empty calories is what it is. I mean, it's empty, but very low calories. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, again, you mix that up, the only calories you're really getting is whatever's found in the berries. And if you do put in the Greek yogurt and stuff like that with it, little trace amounts of calories you get from there. But that's another little hack that I use myself, and I find it's very, very good. But these are some strategies that you want, like having a few of these go-to tricks. Another one that I mix up a lot of is high-protein blender ice cream. In fact, I've got a video up on YouTube. If you just do a search for Lee Hayward healthy snacks, you'll find it. And it's a video where I go into some of my top healthy snack options that you can have to satisfy those cravings and to do so without blowing your diet. And that's the biggest trick to all this is instead of thinking of, I need to avoid this, or I'm not allowed to eat that, I can't eat that, and think of avoidance, and just fill the void with a better option. So you want to substitute, right? Instead of having no snack, have a healthier snack. And once you get in the habit of doing that, then it doesn't even feel like you're depriving yourself because you're still satisfying the craving. You're still getting the eating satiation that you want, but you're just doing so with better choices. And like you can carry that habit over throughout the day. Like each of your meals, think of like, how can I make a better choice? When you're out to a restaurant, how can I make a better choice in the moment right now? So like, let's just say, for example, I'm at the restaurant, I'm looking at the menu. I could order deep fried chicken or I could order grilled chicken. What's a better choice? Hey, I'll get the grilled. I could have French fries or I could have a baked potato. You know what? I'll get the baked potato, right? It's a leaner, healthier option. Okay? Instead of a side of onion rings, how about I get a side of a garden salad? Like little things like that, these little in the moment decisions, this is what determines your success or failure. Right? It's all those little in the moment decisions. It's not some big grand plan of, having the perfect workout and the perfect diet and the perfect this and the perfect that all laid out and mapped out, because the perfect plan rarely goes according to plan. Right? Life's going to throw curveballs your way, and very often you're going to get off track. Like, let's just say you had the perfect diet plan all mapped out for your body type with your macros and your calories and your portion sizes and everything else laid out. And then you're standing in line at the all-you-can-eat buffet with your plate, and you see this rows and rows of food laid out in front of you. Like, what does knowing your calories and knowing your macros mean then? It means absolutely nothing, right? Knowing your macros is out the window because here you are, you're hungry, you're in the line, and you've got endless food choices available. Right. And it's what's going to make the biggest difference there is making better choices. And it's just these little in the moment decisions. Right. Am I going to choose the deep fried or I'm going to choose the grilled? Right. Am I going to choose, a side of vegetables or a side of tater tots or whatever, all these little in the moment decisions, which in and of themselves don't mean anything. Like if you eat a healthy meal today or you eat a junk food meal, you're still going to be the same tomorrow. Like, you're not going to look any different. If vice versa, I mean, if you exercise today or you don't exercise, you're still going to look the same and have the same physical performance tomorrow, right? In the moment, it doesn't matter, but compounded over time, all these little decisions, that's what makes the difference, right? It's like smoking a cigarette. Like you could smoke a cigarette today, you're not going to have cancer tomorrow. But if you keep smoking cigarettes day after day after day after day, year after year after year, I mean, eventually it's going to compound and you're going to suffer the side effects. Vice versa, if you make healthy choices and you do that day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, over the course of the long term, you're going to see the positive benefits of that. And that's what you need to realize. You're like at a fork in the road, and every little decision is pulling you one way or the other. And in the moment, it doesn't mean much, but where is it going to lead over the course of the next, year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? That's when this becomes apparent. And you see someone who's making healthy choices over the course of 10 years versus someone who's making unhealthy choices over the course of 10 years. And that's when it becomes like, holy shit, like what the heck is this healthy guy doing that the unhealthy guy isn't? It's not crazy stuff. It's just these little in the moment decisions. And he's making better decisions more often, and the other guy's making poorer decisions more often. And that's what's leading you down the road, right? That's ultimately how this works. It's not some magical secret or some crash diet or some secret macro split or, super set rep combo at the gym that's going to do it all for you, or, high intensity interval fasted cardio is the secret. It's none of that stuff. It's just making better decisions and better choices in the moment and doing so more often. And if you make more good choices, you're going to get more good results. If you make more bad choices, you're going to get more bad results. And that's really what it comes down to. And that this is what we really focus on in the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint, is not just giving you the tactics, but reprogramming this thing up here that's been conditioned from years and decades and a lifetime of negative programming just through poor habits and lifestyle choices that you've probably didn't even consciously develop. It's just you built it up through your family, through work, through just media, advertising, temptations, and just being bombarded with junk food and poor choices everywhere you go. And then that becomes your lifestyle. That becomes your new norm. All we want to do is we want to reprogram that, rewire it so that you start doing the right things automatically without conscious effort and willpower. And once you get there and not only know it and know it intellectually, but you know it internally where you're living it, you're doing it, and you're actually seeing the results, that's when this becomes a game changer. And that's when you can get to the point where you can live a lean, healthy lifestyle and not feel like you're on a diet, not feeling like you're depriving yourself and you're always going hungry and you're always suffering it out. Right? Suffering it out never lasts. That's the problem. This whole approach, like a lot of people try and suffer it out, think, I'm going to suffer it out on keto. I'm going to suffer it out on intermittent fasting, or I'm going to do hours of cardio every day. I'm going to suffer it out and lose the weight. Well, yeah, you can suffer it out in the short term, but do you want to suffer it out for the rest of your life? Probably not. And if you can't do it long term, then the results are not long term, right? Like it has to be a lifestyle change. And that's why we need to build in better habits and not just simply relying on willpower and determination and grit and suffering it out, right? That never works. You want to enjoy the process. So hopefully that answers your question there, Mr. M. Paz. But it's a good one. And this is a deep topic. I mean, I could spend an hour just going into this in more detail, but hopefully that was kind of like a general overview of that. Now, I mean, if you do want some help or you have any specific questions about your situation, hey, if you want to reach out to me personally, you can do so. I've got my email address down in the description below this video. You can pop it open there. It's leeh@leehayward.com. Or if you want, you can send me a message through Facebook. I'm active over there as well. All right. But yeah, if you do have any questions about this stuff, feel free to reach out to me. All right, moving on. What else we got there? We've got Saga, I think it is, joining in for the first time from Vancouver, Canada. I've been following your channel for a few years now. Well, welcome. Glad to connect with you. Nice to have you tuning in for a live video chat. Dario's joining in. What's your favorite cheat meal? Tonight I'm cooking spaghetti carbonara for the family and washing it down with a couple glasses of wine for good measure. Favorite cheat meal. I one of my favorite cheat meals that I really enjoy, and we actually had it just a couple weeks ago. I love going out for sushi. I really do. I enjoy a good sushi meal, and I can classify that as a cheat meal because it is quite calorie dense. But that's one of my favorites. Like if I want to go to a nice restaurant, that's hands down one of my favorites for sure. Now I like a lot of the other stuff, like other people like your pizza and your cake and your cookies and whatever, that kind of stuff too. But I'd say if I had to have a favorite, it would be sushi. That's one that I really, really enjoy. All right, so what else we got there? Good to see you. Most of my workouts that I'm doing are from from 2010. Been following your routines and workouts, and that's from messing flying air. I think that's how I say your name. Good. Glad you enjoy the content and glad you enjoy the workouts. Chris is joining in. Isn't this tea with Lee? Well, sure. Cheers. I got my cup of tea. So tea with Lee, everybody. Lee's saying, Lee Dunnigan's joining in, says, I had bench press today, and after seeing your video about focusing on locking out the elbows, it really does help. It shows how the mind is a powerful tool when lifting. Cool. I actually, for those of you who didn't check that out or see it, over on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, I did a live video yesterday answering one of the questions that Jeff, one of my coaching students, had about bench press technique. And I shared a simple bench press technique that you can use to literally instantly increase your bench press. And it's just focusing on how to the different phases of the lift and focusing on the lockout portion to really get past that sticky point. So if you haven't already done so, just head on over to my Facebook, and it's just scroll through the main page there. And it's one of the most recent videos. In fact, it is the most recent video that I posted up on Facebook. And for those of you, I know we're on YouTube here now, but I'm more active over on Facebook. And I got to say, I like Facebook because it's a two-way conversation, right? It's very easy to interact back and forth, whereas YouTube is kind of like a one-way conversation. I mean, I know we got our live video chat thing going on here, but it's hard to have a personal discussion with anybody on YouTube, where it's really easy to do that over on Facebook. So if you do have any questions and you want to connect, friend me up on Facebook. David's joining in. David Jones says, hello, hope you're well. Looks windy outside. Yeah. Yeah, it is windy outside, right? You can see the trees blowing away there in the this October for us has been cold, windy, and wet. Like it's in the single-digit degrees, double-digit wind, and pretty much rain every day. So it's cold, windy, and wet here. Yep. And it's been like that ever since October came in, right? So it's not the most pleasant for getting outside. I mean, I'm still getting outside for cardio and bike rides, but man, you got to bundle up in layers and everything else, and it's not as enjoyable as when it's warm and sunny. That's for sure. Ray's joining in. Who else we got there? David's joining us. He says, what is some advice to give someone who's significantly overweight, 600 pounds? I have really bad feet that hurt and swell constantly. Some things I can do for workouts or exercises to help in shredding the pounds. That's, wow, okay, 600 pounds, that's huge, right? I mean, but you know what? It is possible, regardless of your situation. Improvement is always possible. And I'm actually going to share a story here from somebody who is over on the Dad Bod Transformation group. That's a group that I participate on Facebook. It's a massive group. If you're not a part of it and you're a middle-aged dad, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's the Dad Bod Transformation. Just do a search for Dad Bod Transformation on Facebook. But there was a gentleman in there who was in a very similar situation, and he started posting what his desire to get fit and some things that he was doing last year. And I got to say, when I seen him post initially, I was, my heart went out to him, but I mean, I was almost like, man, this guy's too far gone. I don't think he's going to make any progress. I just thought, like, it's damage is done, too far gone. I mean, I respect that he wants to make a change, but I didn't think he could. And in his case, he was over 700 pounds. I think he was around 750 pounds, like bedridden, couldn't even stand up or anything. So I'm like, I mean, the average overweight person, I mean, at least you're still mobile. Like you can go outside for a walk, or you can go to the gym, or you can just move, or you can do stuff. But in his case, he was bedridden at 750 pounds. And I was like, I honestly didn't think he was going to make any progress. But he started posting videos, And he got a set of resistance bands, and he would lying in his bed and he'd be doing like band exercises and stuff. And like, he even wrapped the band around his feet, and here he is lying in the bed, kicking his feet up and down against the resistance bands. And like, it's sad to see, but it's admirable at the same time. And he started with that, just very basic stuff. And I mean, he was posting it, and of course, you get a lot of positive feedback. I mean, it's an amazing group for support and feedback. And I mean, of course, I, was rooting him on and everything else, but I got to say, I didn't really think much was going to happen, but he kept at it. He kept at it, and he was making better food choices. And that's one thing, regardless of how big you are or how bad your mobility is, you're in control of what you put in your mouth, right? So, I mean, you can always make a better food choice. But he took action, and he started doing some exercises, just literally lying on his back in his bed. And he started with resistance bands. And then finally, when he was able to, had enough strength, like he would sit up and do some seating exercises. And then finally he started building up enough strength that he could stand up and like walk around the house with the assistance of like a walker, and, kept at it. And I mean, I don't know exactly how long it's been, but he's been doing this for at least a year. And now he's to the point where like he can actually go for walks. And I think he posted up on the group a while back that he went to the swimming pool and actually, would swam some, in the pool. And like, he's physically moving and getting better all the time. And over the past year, he's lost over 200 pounds. Now, I know that's a lot of weight, but you got to realize, percentage wise, he had a lot to lose. But I mean, over the past year, he's lost over 200 pounds. I mean, he's still massively overweight, but just think of the progress. And he's seeing the results. Like, he's taken small action, like baby step action, just moving and better eating choices. That's it. But it's starting to make a difference. So it just kind of goes to show that progress is possible regardless of your situation. And even if, you're kind of like rock bottom, like lower than a snake's belly in a wagon, rock bottom, progress is still possible if you take action and you refuse to quit. And again, I was just super inspiring to see, for sure. But if you want some help with this, feel free to reach out to me. Like, we can have a chat, an email discussion back and forth or whatever, and brainstorm some ideas and help you get back on the right track. But bottom line, like I say, you can make a change regardless of how bad the situation is, if you're willing to put in the work and you have patience, right? It's not something that's going to happen like in a few weeks or a few months or anything like that. Like, this is years, to go from massively overweight, massively obese to a healthy body weight. That's years. I mean, it took you years to get there. So it's going to take years to undo the damage. But the good thing is, with the proper approach to exercise and nutrition, you can turn it around a lot faster than it took you to gain it in the first place. All right, David saying, thank you, Mr. Lee Hayward. I really appreciate all you do. Much appreciated, David. Thank you. We have Robert tuning in. We have AT. What's the main cause of muscle cramps? Not during or after workouts, but as we get up from sleeping. And how do we fix this? All right, interesting. There's a lot of things that could cause muscle cramps. One, if you're not consuming enough fluid, like you're dehydrated, that can cause muscle cramps. If you're not consuming enough electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, that can cause muscle cramps. And a lot of times people are purposely trying to avoid salt, right? Like, if you're one of these guys who are always trying to, salt is bad, salt's the bad guy, the media says don't consume salt, the doctors all say don't consume salt, it's going to give you high blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. There's a big misconception when it comes to salt, because salt is essential. You need salt. You need sodium. In fact, you're at a higher risk of health problems of consuming too little salt than you are from consuming too much. The problem with salt is not too much salt. It's usually too little water, because as long as you're drinking enough water for your body to utilize the sodium that you consume, what's going to happen is it's going to use what it needs and flush out the rest. It'll either flush it out through your sweat, flush it out through your urine, but your body is not going to just retain salt. Like, initially it can. Like, if you go from a very low sodium diet and then all of a sudden you start consuming a high sodium diet, in that initial transition, you may experience some bloating and some water retention. But once your body becomes regulated to it, it's not going to retain It's going to use what it needs and flush out the rest. It's just like drinking water. Like a lot of people say, well, I don't want to drink too much water because I'm afraid I'm going to retain water. And actually, the opposite is true. If you don't drink enough water, your body is actually going to kind of go into survival mode and retain fluid. But if you're drinking an abundance of water all the time, your body's going to use what it needs and flush out the rest. So it's not going to retain. It's actually the opposite of the way a lot of people think of it. And sodium works in a similar manner. So if you're purposely avoiding salt, then this is one thing that you might want to just increase your sodium intake. And it doesn't have to be crazy, like adding a little bit of table salt to your food for flavor. I mean, like that's what I do. Very often when I go to the gym, I mean, I'll sometimes sprinkle some, like when I go to the gym, I mix up my water bottle and I put like amino acids, and I'll probably put a few shakes of salt in my water bottle, and I'll sip that during my workouts at the gym. When I go for bike rides, in my water bottle, again, amino acids and salt, right? I mean, I mix that up and sip that just to make sure that my fluids and my electrolytes are topped up. Right, so that's one thing. Another thing you want to look into as well, if you're on any medications, whether that's cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication, whatever, a lot of these medications may cause muscle cramps as well. So look into that. If you are on any medication and you're experiencing severe muscle cramps, you might want to talk to your doctor about it and see if there's any complications there. Because I know, I think one of my family members was put on, I believe, like a hypertension medication and some sort of cholesterol medication as well. And that was one of the side effects that they were experiencing, was muscle cramps because of those medications. So that's something you might want to look into as well. Okay, but that's one thing for sure, is I think that the electrolytes, fluid, and sodium, that would be the big ones that I would focus on right off the bat. All right. Have messing flying air saying, my problem is eating late at night. I can't sleep unless I eat. And I'm the same way. I always have a bedtime snack. I have ever since I was a kid, and I still do. In fact, I usually eat 4 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime snack. That's my regular routine. I mean, sometimes it varies depending on what I'm doing and how active I am, but I always got to eat before I go to bed. I'm not one of these people who can sleep on an empty stomach, because if I go to bed on an empty stomach, like within a couple hours, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and my belly is rumbling and growling, and I'm just, I don't sleep well if I'm going to bed on an empty stomach. So I have to eat before I go to bed. And I always try to have some protein, and I usually have some high fiber food to give me that satiation filling in the evening. So some examples that I have, like the high protein ice cream that I mentioned, I'll probably have that, like Greek yogurt, and mix it up with some protein powder, probably have a piece of fruit or something like that with it. But I always have an evening snack, and takes the edge off my hunger and allows me to get a better night's sleep. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's a misconception as well. Like, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not allowed to eat late at night. Like, don't eat after 6 p.m. or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not when you eat, it's what you eat and how much you eat. The timing has very little impact. And it's like, just because you eat before you go to bed doesn't mean you're going to get fat. You can get lean and ripped and shredded eating before bed. Like, I dieted down and got my leanest condition ever for the bodybuilding competition that I did back in July. And I was eating before bed every single night. Like, just because you eat late at night, it's not going to prevent you from burning body fat. It's the calories in, calories out over the long term, not when you eat it. To give you an analogy, just think of, does it matter if you fill up your car with gasoline in the morning or if you fill it up in the evening? No, like, is your gas mileage in the car going to vary? Like, are you going to get better gas mileage if you fill up your car in the morning, or are you going to get better gas mileage if you fill it up in the evening? It doesn't freaking matter. Like, gas is gas. It's going to get burned whenever it gets burned. Like, it doesn't matter when you put it in the tank. Same thing with your eating, right? You can eat in the evening. It's not going to hinder your metabolism or anything like that. It's the volume and what you eat, not when you eat it. So yeah, don't be afraid to eat at night if you enjoy it. Now, vice versa, with that being said, I know some people who find if they eat before bed, it actually keeps them awake, right? So, like, everybody's unique. You got to find out your own individual quirks and situation and what works the best for you. But more often than not, I find, like, a lot of people actually function better if they do have a small snack before they go to bed. Sometimes helps to just helps you relax and helps you to get a good night's sleep and prevent you from waking up in the nighttime with a rumbling belly. All right, who else we got there? We have Trainer Boy, we've got Fireblaze, we've got Torpedo. Lee, I drink 4 or 5 double coffee tea daily. Coffee/tea daily. I think it's messed up my whole weight loss plan. I'm 42, 225 pounds, been working out for 22 years. Any suggestions? All right. Coffee and tea is not hindering weight loss. In fact, it could actually help. Moderate amounts of caffeine from coffee or tea can actually help the fat loss process along. Now, I'm not saying that's a free-for-all to go and just slam back excessive amounts of caffeine, but when you're looking at coffee and tea, the problem isn't the coffee/tea, it's what are you putting in the coffee and tea. Like in my case, I drink it black. Right, I like the flavor of the bean, and I like just the flavor of the tea. I don't add anything. I don't add cream or sugar or anything else, and that makes a big difference because it's virtually a calorie-free beverage. I mean, there are trace amounts of calories. Maybe like 5 calories in a cup of black coffee or something like that, but it's trace amounts. Whereas if you're having cream and sugar, or God forbid, you're going to Starbucks and getting one of these big old froppy, creamy coffee drinks or whatever, just laden with all kinds of crap. I mean, that's just a big old, empty calorie bomb because it's just loaded with fat and sugar. So, I mean, that could hinder your fat loss. But if it's just plain old black coffee, black tea, that's not going to hinder your progress right there. So if you are drinking those, you're saying double. So when you say double, do you mean like I'm having 2 cream and 2 sugar? Is that what double means? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've never worked in a coffee shop, but I think that's what people refer to if they say they're having a double. It means I'm having 2 cream and I'm having 2 sugar. Well, yeah, it's the double. It's not the coffee, it's tea. It's the doubles. That's causing you, and that's a lot of extra calories. Like prime example, my neighbor who lives across the street, God love him. He always says, "Oh, I only eat 1 meal a day," right? And so I only eat 1 meal a day, but it says I'm getting a belly. I don't know why I'm getting a belly. I only eat 1 meal a day. Meanwhile, the guy is drinking like 10 or more cups of coffee, and he's putting cream and sugar in every single one, and he's having that every single day. But he doesn't count that, right? Because of course, liquid calories don't count. It's only sit down to the table calories counts in his mind. So he thinks he's only eating 1 meal a day, yet he's consuming at least 1,000 or maybe upwards of 2,000 calories from cream and sugar in these coffees that he's drinking throughout the day. Plus he drinks regular soda pop and stuff like that, which is loaded in calories. So he's drinking a crap ton of sugar throughout the day, but then he's thinking he's only eating 1 meal a day because he only sits down to the table for dinner, right? But he's in a calorie surplus and getting fatter on 1 meal a day because of all the calories that he's drinking from soda pop and coffee. So you want to be careful about that. A simple solution, low-fat milk and 0-calorie sweetener, something like stevia. I mean, that's a simple swap. I mean, you don't even need to give up the coffee, give up the tea. You just need to make a better choice. Remember at the beginning of the chat when I was saying it's all these little in-the-moment decisions? Right? Like, hey, am I going to have the deep fried chicken or am I going to have the grilled chicken? Am I going to have the French fries or am I going to have the baked potato? Hey, am I going to have the double or am I going to have low fat milk and stevia instead? Right? You're not giving anything up. You're just making a better choice. And if you simply made that switch alone, and you did nothing else, you just swapped out the cream for low fat milk and you swapped out the sugar for some sort of artificial sweetener, whether that's like stevia is a good one. I like stevia myself, but whatever artificial sweetener you prefer, you just instantly saved yourself several hundred calories. I mean, that could be enough to put you into a deficit to the point where you're losing a pound a week or more just from that alone. So, I mean, and you're not even giving anything up. You're just making better choices. So like little things like that can have a huge impact. So give that a try. Just literally try it for a month, swap it out for 1 month and just see what happens. All right, moving on. I know we got a lot of people, a lot of questions. Try to bang through as many of these as I can. We have my Spore 100 saying, I used to be big into lifting heavy. Then I got older. Now I do body weight and low impact to stay healthy. I can relate to that. I'm kind of similar to myself. As you get older, you get a few aches, pains, and injuries, and the ego subsides. The desire to push yourself as hard and as heavy kind of goes down, and I'm very much the same way now. Like, I have no ego when I go into the gym lifting anymore. Like, I don't try and keep up with anybody as far as like, hey, that guy benched 315. Oh shit, I better try and bench 315. Or hey, this guy pulled 4 plates aside on the deadlift. I better try and pull. No, I couldn't care less. I go in there, I do my thing, and I tend to focus on higher reps, more time under tension, and focusing on the quality and not just simply moving weight. That's what I focus on. And I have to do that because I've had several injuries over the years. And I find if I just go in there and start ego lifting and trying to move weight for the sake of moving weight, something's going to snap, pop, or crack. Right? It's like a bowl of Rice Krispies. I'm gonna snap, crackle, pop. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I got to be more respectful of the body the older you get. Not saying that you can't push yourself hard, but you just got to do so in a smart fashion. And I focus on the quality of the workouts, not just simply moving heavy weight. All right, where are we? I just lost my place there. Shit. My touchpad on my laptop is really, really touchy. As soon as I just lost my place. I got to find where I was again. Okay, we have No One joining in. That's his username, No One. Hi. Gregory joining in. He says, I need some health advice. Do you have any tips to prevent constipation? I'm having trouble in the bathroom. Yeah, sure. I know it's a shitty topic, but let's talk about it, right? Or it's a not shitty topic for you because you're not doing it. This is something that a lot of people are going to have issues with. And for the most part, if you improve your overall eating habits, exercise, all that kind of stuff, it's going to carry over and help you become more regular. But one thing that I would focus on, natural unprocessed foods. Like every single meal, you want to be getting in some fruits or vegetables. Like that's the foundation. In fact, my foundation for every single meal is I want to make sure that I'm getting lean protein and I'm getting vegetables and or fruit with every meal. That's like my default nutrition habits. As long as I'm covering those as the foundation, I know I'm on the right track. And those fruits and veg, that's providing your body with natural fiber that it can use to help keep you regular. I'm not a big fan of fiber supplements personally, because fiber supplements, it's not as natural as fruits and vegetables. Like when you're getting the fruits and veg, it's natural fiber, but it's fiber that your body can utilize and process better. Whereas if you're getting like the Metamucil and the psyllium husks and these dry fiber supplements, sometimes they can actually like bind you up and make it even harder to go because it's not as readily absorbed as the natural fiber that you get from unprocessed fruits and veg. So I would focus on getting your fiber naturally versus trying to slam back fiber supplements. So try that. Fruits and veg with every single meal. And if you're not a big fruit and veg eater, then build it up gradually. Like just don't go from 0 to hero overnight. Like just try, hey, for the next week, I'm going to add an extra serving of fruits and vegetables each day, and then just gradually build it up right from there. Drinking adequate water. Dehydration is another one. A lot of times if you're not hydrated, that can make your poo hard. It makes your stools hard. So drinking adequate water and keeping yourself hydrated can actually help to soften it up and make it easier to go through, right? Clean out the pipe, so to speak. Other things that can help too, coffee and caffeine in moderate amounts. Like a lot of times people find that their morning cup of joe helps them doing morning number 2. It does for me. Now it's not for everybody. Like some people don't find any effect from it, but I find like when I wake up in the morning and, I do my morning routine and everything else, and I usually, have a morning cup of coffee, I find that after I have that coffee, I'm usually heading to the loo for number 2 very shortly thereafter. So it's a great way to clean out the pipes before I start the day. And if I don't do that, oh man, I miss it. Like there's nothing better than the feeling of of cleaning out the pipes before you go start your day and you go on about your business. Like I hate it if they don't get that out of you the first thing in the morning, and then you're somewhere midday and you get the urge. Like I like the home bowl, right? I enjoy. I don't like the public bowl, right? Having to do a number 2 in public. I like to get that done in the privacy of my own home, using the home bowl, get that out of the way first thing in the morning. And I find my cup of coffee helps with that. So that's another little tip that may help with that. Exercise. Like if sometimes if I'm feeling a bit bound up, like just getting out and moving, like even if simple as going for a walk or something like that, just moving your body, getting the metabolism going, the muscles and the blood flow, that helps to move everything else as well. So that's another one that really helps. But the big thing is just really focusing on your overall diet and exercise lifestyle habits, right? If you're eating lots of natural unprocessed foods, you're drinking adequate water, you're exercising daily, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But if it is, I mean, and this is something that's been going on for a long time, then, talk to your doctor. Like I'm just giving some general practical tips that anybody could follow. But if this is a serious issue for you and it's a serious concern, like don't put it off. Talk to your doctor, because who knows, this could be it might be a symptom of something a lot more serious, right? I mean, and you don't want to, like, anytime your body gives you weird warning signs like this, don't ignore them. Get it checked out. Like if in doubt, get it checked out. Better play it safe than sorry. And if it's only some sort of short-term temporary thing, then hopefully that's all it is. But who knows? It may be something more serious, and you want to get it looked into as soon as possible. All right, what else we got there? Mike is saying he's about to start work. Have a great day. I'll watch this later. Cheers for the videos. All right, catch you later, Mike. Have yourself a good one. This one's from no one. Again, that's his username. So he is someone, but his name is no one. He says, I'm 23 and I quit the gym for a year due to COVID and hence no exercise for a year. Now my whole body is again obese. Now I have started again, but I don't want to spend money on supplements. You don't need to. Like, just focus. I mean, if the workout is your biggest bottleneck, the biggest thing that's holding you back, just focus on that. Like I said right at the beginning of the chat, and if you didn't catch the beginning, then go back and watch the replay afterwards. Instead of overwhelming yourself thinking, well, I got to get the perfect diet and I got to get the perfect workout and I got to get the perfect split and the perfect schedule and the perfect supplements, and like, no, just focus on one thing. Like, just kind of do a big overview and say, like, what's the one thing that's holding me back the most? And if you're not doing any exercise, well, that's the one thing that's holding you back the most. Focus on that. Just do one thing at a time. Make that a habit. Get that nailed down. And then once you're good at that and you kind of build up the momentum, okay, like I got the exercise thing down pat. Now maybe I'll focus on improving the nutrition, right? Once you get the nutrition, then maybe say, okay, now I'm going to see if I can fill in the gaps. Are there any nutritional supplements that might help? But don't try and overhaul everything at once, like doing too much too soon, because that's what leads to this overwhelm and burnout and people like just getting so paralysis by analysis and overwhelm and not doing anything. Like, make it simple and focus on one thing. I mean, and in your case, exercise, whether that's just getting your ass outside and going for a walk, whether it's going to the gym and doing a weight training workout there, whether it's doing a home workout at home, like there's really no excuse. Like, you can do something. And the whole idea of COVID, like, not trying to, be mean or nothing, but that's a whole excuse. Because even though the gym was closed, you could still get out and go for a walk. You could still do body weight exercises at home. You could have picked up a set of resistance bands and did some simple exercises. Like, I put up a ton of videos during the whole COVID lockdown, sharing like home workouts that you can do with body weight and resistance bands. And ironically, some of my personal coaching students hit their personal best ever over the past year. Like one guy from Ontario, Canada, Steve Patterson, we did a video together about 6 months ago. And he lost 70 pounds in 6 months working out from home during COVID lockdown and just basic minimal equipment. He had an old Bowflex machine that he bought used, and he was using that. He had a treadmill that he had at home, and Bowflex, treadmill, proper nutrition habits, lost 70 pounds in 6 months. And he's actually lost more than that. So over the next 6 months, he's lost another 30 pounds. I mean, he's right on pushing 100-pound weight loss over the past year during COVID lockdown, right? Which is crazy, but I have a ton of respect for him because he, instead of using it as an excuse to not do anything, he used it as an excuse to prioritize his health and fitness. Because, I mean, he was in one of the areas that was hit hard with lockdowns. Like anyone who's familiar with Ontario, Canada, like they were locked up like Fort Knox. I mean, no no gyms, no public outings, no restaurants, no nothing for a long time. And instead of him using that as an excuse to like, oh, I can't do anything, he said, you know what? I got nothing else to do but work out. Like, I mean, I got no social life anymore. I'm in freaking lockdown. So he used the time that he had from it to focus on his fitness. And I mean, it was one of the best things he did. He got in the best shape of his life over the past year. Right? I mean, losing 100 pounds, I mean, that's freaking substantial. I mean, that's life-changing progress right there. And he did it during COVID lockdown. If you want to check that out, just go to my main YouTube channel. And there's some videos there. Let me just... Where is it to? If you go right to the main channel, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding channel, do a search for Lee Hayward and Steve Patterson, and you should find that video. So it's a video that we did together, and he just, you know, he shares in that video exactly what he did. All right, let's move on. We got, okay, I can't even pronounce this username because it's not in English. Is there a solution about muscle soreness? I train almost every day. I feel muscle soreness almost every day. It is a pain. It makes it hard to do my job. I live in South Korea. Okay. One thing, when it comes to muscle soreness, you don't need to be sore to make progress. So one of the simple solutions I would, well, let me back up a bit. Let me back up. I really need to know, like, are you just starting a workout routine or have you been following this program for months or years? Because, like, if you're into a consistent routine and you're still getting painfully sore after every workout, you're probably pushing it too much. Like, for the most part, the only time people get sore is when they start a new routine. So, like, beginners and people who are out of shape and deconditioned, they're going to get the most muscle soreness. Now, advanced lifters can still get sore, but it's not as big of a deal as it is for beginners. Like when you see someone, like prime example, like the New Year's resolution fitness buzz, right? Like January 1st and everybody's in the gym training like a madman because they feel fat and guilty after the holidays and they're trying to lose weight as fast as possible. So they go from 0 to doing like 3 hours a day in the gym from right get-go, right? From 0 to 100 on day 1. And then the next day they can't move. Right? Their aches and pains and they feel like crap, right? Can't even walk up a flight of stairs, can't even sit on the toilet because everything hurts, right? That's overkill. You don't need to do too much. Like you do not need to annihilate the muscle. You only need to stimulate the muscle. And overkill is actually setting you back. So if you're getting painfully sore, you're doing too much, right? You need to scale back the volume, scale back the intensity to something that's more manageable. You shouldn't be getting painfully sore. Now, I mean, if you really push yourself with a hard workout and you feel like a little bit of dull ache, you know, the day after, that's not a big deal, but it shouldn't hinder you from actually doing your job and living a normal day-to-day life. And one thing that I would recommend, especially for someone like yourself who works out every day, how about you better structure your workout so that one day you do a weight training workout, the next day you do some cardio. Weight training one day, cardio the next. This is what I do personally, and I find that works really well, because you're working different energy systems, different forms of exercise, and it's very complementary. So on that weight training day, you're in there, you're breaking down muscle tissue, you're placing stress and demands on the muscles, joints, tendons, ligaments. And then on the next day, you're going in there and you're doing some cardio. So it's not as stressful on the joints, tendons, ligaments, and the muscles themselves, but you're still getting blood flow and circulation, and you're getting the benefits of exercise, plus you're working your cardiovascular system and your endurance and burning body fat. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And it's what I refer to as my yin and yang training system. So you're getting the high intensity training on the weight training day, and then you're getting some low intensity exercise on the cardio day. And by alternating them back and forth like that, it's a very effective way to, one, exercise on a daily basis and reap the benefits of daily exercise, but do so in a complementary fashion that works with your body's natural recovery. So on that cardio day, that's active recovery. You're still getting blood flow and circulation throughout the muscles, but you're not breaking them down. You're not causing them to get sore. It's actually helping to rejuvenate and build them up faster. So that's what I would suggest, is try alternating weight training one day and cardio the next. And, look at your overall workout routine and think, like, are you overkill? Are you doing too much? Because if you're getting painfully sore, you probably are. Think of stimulate, not annihilate. And I'm stealing this line from former Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney. This is what he used to say back in the day, is you just need to stimulate muscle, not annihilate it. And it's a good rule of thumb to go by, because it's almost like, I'm going on a deer hunt and I'm taking a rocket launcher to a deer hunt. Okay, yeah, you can kill a deer with a rocket launcher, but it's overkill. It's blown the thing to smithereens, right? A rifle would do the job fine. A bow and arrow would do the job fine. Like, you just need to do enough to get the job done, right? You don't need to annihilate it and blow it to smithereens. And a lot of guys have this mindset with their workouts, like, I got to go in there and I got to kill it, right? It's leg day. I'm going to kill it on leg day. It's chest day. I'm going to kill it on chest day. You don't need to kill anything. You just need to go in there and stimulate it. Provide some muscle stimulation and then let it rest, recover, and grow. And then go back in there and provide some muscle stimulation, rest, recover, and grow. And gradually have some progressive overload in there. Like, don't go in there and think of annihilating and tearing the shit down out of your body and thinking that it's going to speed up the progress. It's not going to speed it up. In fact, it's going to slow it down, because, one, your risk of injury goes up. And if you're going in there and overkill and doing way too much, it's just delaying the whole rest, recovery, and growth process. I mean, you're slowing down your recovery. You just need to go in there and do enough to stimulate some muscle growth, rest, recover, and grow, and get in there and do it again, right? And it doesn't have to be this big, painful, exhaustive workout. Like, you don't need to go in there and do a 3-hour-long marathon workout and 40 sets per body part or anything like that. Like, stimulate, rest, recover, grow. That's it. Repeat. Stimulate, rest, recover, grow, and repeat. Right? That's what you need to do. So I don't know your individual situations. I'm just going based on a YouTube comment here. But if you're painfully sore every day, chances are you're just doing too much, and you need to just let your body rest, recover, and grow more. What else we got there? Eagle Eye John saying, Lee, I was right. I've been on lower carbs. I have a leaner waist now. I was a 35-inch waist, not a 34. Okay. Good for you. I don't know if that's a question, a comment, or what, but hey, if you're following a lower carb diet and it's working for you, hey, keep doing it. If you enjoy it and it's working, keep doing it. Like the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mohammed's joining in saying, I learned cool recipes from the app, like the apple pie and whey, the tuna toast recipe. I need help for a good suggestion for breakfast without eggs. Tell you one thing that I like, especially if you are a coffee drinker, a simple way to get some protein in the morning, and it's tasty and it doesn't take hardly any time, is pour yourself up a cup of coffee and put in a scoop of vanilla whey protein or chocolate whey protein, whatever. Put a scoop of whey protein in with it, and then whip it up with a milk frother. And it tastes almost like a cappuccino, and it's delicious. And it's a great way to get a nice little, get a kick of caffeine in the morning, but to get your protein in there as well. And it takes hardly any time, and it's just a quick, tasty way to start your day. A lot of my coaching students like doing that, like having protein coffee first thing in the morning, because it's so quick and convenient. Like, you could do that, maybe grab a piece of fruit and be out the door, right? So I mean, like, coffee and fruit, and you could have breakfast done, but you're still getting your protein, still getting some natural carbohydrates in there from the fruit, and it's quick and it's simple, and like I say, it's very easy. That's one that you can look into. If you just do a search for Lee Hayward protein coffee, I've got videos on YouTube showing how to make this exactly. What else we got there? What gaming chair are you sitting on? Well, I know it's technically a gaming chair, but I don't game on it. I just like it because it's a nice, comfortable office chair. But I picked this one up at Costco. I don't even know the name of it. Whatever one they had in the warehouse when I went there. But it's a comfortable chair. I like gaming chairs because they're just comfortable. I mean, I spend a lot of time working on the computer, and it's sometimes the gaming chairs are more comfortable than office chairs. How much protein can the body handle? This one's coming from Ray. Holy shit! I'm just looking at the time. I've been doing this for over an hour and 10 minutes. Where does the time go? This is crazy. Like a few minutes ago, I started this chat, and now we're an hour and 10 minutes into it. Where does the time go? This is insane. Anyway, I'll answer Ray's question. How much protein can the body handle? That depends on how big you are, how active you are. Like there's so many variables, but the general rule of thumb, right? 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight, and like you got your bases covered. That's what you should shoot for. Or another way you can look at it is 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight, right? That's another way that you can look for like how much protein you should be striving for each day. So if you're on the lean side and you want to build up, then say, okay, well, what's my target weight? I'll throw out some numbers. Let's say you're 175 pounds and your ultimate goal is you want to be a lean and muscular 200. Well, then shoot for 200 grams of protein spaced out throughout the day. Vice versa. Let's just say you're 230 pounds and your ideal goal is to get down to 190. Well, then shoot for 190, like that's your target body weight, and have 190 grams of protein spaced out throughout the day. That would be a good benchmark to shoot for. Now, in reality, are you going to eat exactly that amount every single day? No. Some days are going to be higher, some days are going to be lower. It's going to be all over the place, but like shoot for that as your target. That's where you strive to be. If it's a little higher, a little lower, like don't stress over it. It's not a big deal. It's being good enough and good enough consistently over the long term. That's what's most important. And you want to space that protein out, right? Like don't try and slam it all back in 1 meal or 2 meals or something like that. You're better off having at least 3 meals or even 4 or 5 meals a day. Like in my case, I like to have 4, right? I have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack before bed. That's usually what I have. Sometimes I might have more than that, especially if I'm out for like long bike rides or, when I'm at the gym working out, I'll mix up amino acids into my water and stuff like that. So that's bumping up the protein intake a bit there as well. But generally speaking, I got 4 sit down to the table meals per day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack before bed. And I make sure to have protein with every single one of those. And I try to split it up so that I'm getting equal ratios of protein with each meal. And like in my case, I'm shooting for about 40 to 50 grams of protein per meal, 4 times a day. That's what I shoot for. We got Trainer Boy 1995 says, Lee, you've been a fan for years. You're the OG goat of YouTube fitness. Any advice for a 26-year-old getting into professional bodybuilding? I've been natural for 5 years now, at my peak, I believe. Well, I mean, that's a loaded question right there. I mean, I appreciate the comments and stuff. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. And yeah, it's kind of crazy to think like how long I've been doing this. Like I started my first website back in 1997, started YouTube right when YouTube started back in 2006, and still going, still at it, still plugging away. What would I have advice for someone who wants to be a professional bodybuilder? Well, obviously, if you're not already doing so, you want to start getting involved at the local scene and competing. I mean, I don't know what your competitive background is in terms of bodybuilding, or if you've even competed before or what, but get involved on the local scene and just work it from there. And the big thing that you really want to focus on, I mean, I know it's nice to have that vision of where you want to go, but focus on just being better than where you were before. Like that's it. Like take it small. Like if you've never competed before, then the goal 1 is to compete. That's it. Compete. And don't have any big grand expectations. Like this is one thing I see a lot of guys that they think like I got to go out there and I got to win the overall title in my first show and I got to destroy the competition in my first time out. And there are some people who do that. There are few and far between, but there are some people who do it. Like I know some guys personally who've actually went out and won the overall title in their very first competition, but it's rare. Like you got better odds of winning the lottery than you got to go out and striking it, out of the park for your first time in bodybuilding. And that's the truth. because a lot of times it's genetics and everything else that comes into play as well. And you can't determine where you're going to place in a bodybuilding show. Like, you could show up in your absolute best shape, best condition, nail your diet and training and hit everything 100% peak. And if someone shows up who's a bit better, then they're going to win. And that's just the way it is. Like, it doesn't mean that you are a failure or anything like that. It's just who's the best on that day. And you don't know who it is that you're going to be competing against once you step on the competition stage, right? You have zero control over that. So just focus on you, right? Like, being the best version of you. That's what you want to focus on. So if you've never competed before, goal one, pick a competition, train for it, and just go through the process. Like, learn by doing. And don't even have any grand expectations for your first competition other than the fact of showing up on stage and doing your best. I mean, still give it 100% effort. Like, follow your diet and your training and practice your posing and learn as much as you can. And the cool thing about the bodybuilding community, especially on the local level, is it's a very supportive niche, because it's still kind of like an underground sport, even though, in the greater scheme of things, bodybuilding is well known, but on the practical level, it's still kind of like that underground niche sport. And once you get into that scene, people are very supportive, at least from my experience. Now, I can't speak for everywhere and stuff like that, but at least I know from my whole experience, once I was a young guy and expressed interest in bodybuilding, like the older lifters and the older bodybuilders and stuff, they kind of like took me under their wing and mentored me right from the get-go. And I find that there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of support. And that's really cool. And I've noticed that in places that I've traveled as well, right? It's not just locally. I've kind of noticed it, in all around. It's a really cool that in that sense. There's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of support and a lot of help. So make friends in the bodybuilding scene and stuff like that in the local area, at your local gym and stuff like that. I mean, chances are your federation's probably got a Facebook group and stuff like that you can join as well to kind of keep in the loop. But just get out there and start. And then once you've done your first competition, the goal from there is to just be better than you were the previous time. That's it. Each time you compete, go talk to the judges afterwards, get some feedback. I mean, judges are very open and willing to tell you, hey, like, this is your strong points, these are your weak points. You should focus on this. That's good. Whatever. Like, they'll tell you what they see, right? They'll tell you how you stack up against the competition, and take that feedback and then go back to the drawing board and then work on it. So if you have any weaknesses or whatever, then that's something that you can focus on in your off season for your next competition. And it's just a constant progress or constant process of progress. That's what it is. It's just, you go out there, first competition, show up, do it. Next competition, just focus on improving what you did for the previous one. And then each competition you do, just focus on getting better than you did for the previous one. And that's the process. And I mean, and through it, you're going to go through some ups and downs. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to screw up. You're going to get your ass kicked, and hopefully you're going to have some wins along the way as well. And I mean, that's the way it's been for me, right? Like, I mean, I started competing in 1995 is when I did my first show. I was 17 years old, and I went out there and I got my ass whooped. Right? I was the youngest guy in the show, and I got my ass kicked. But I learned so much. And then I went back, competed again the next year, did better, right? Competed again the next year, did better. And then I just kept that process up, just competing and focusing on, like, where could I improve? What can I, tighten things up on? And just learning your body, learning it as you go, right? That's all it's really about. And if you have what it takes in terms of the genetics to go to the higher level, that's going to become apparent as you go through this process, because you're going to excel at a rate where, within a few competitions, okay, you're going to be rising up the ranks pretty quickly. And if you do, then great, all right, ride that wave of momentum. And even if it takes a while, like, who cares? Enjoy the journey. Like, in my case, I never progressed past the regional level. Like, I've done local shows most of the time, but I've only done 2 regional shows, and, got my ass kicked at those. But, like, I don't have the genetics to be a pro bodybuilder. I know that now. But when I was younger, that was my dream. That was my vision. I mean, I had this grand vision. Oh, I was going to win the Mr. Olympia, and I was going to do so naturally, right? That's how naive I was back in the 90s when I started this. Keep in mind, this is before the days of the internet and everything else. So, I mean, information wasn't as readily available as it is today. But I was just young and naive, and I had it set in my mind like I was going to be, the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was going to win the Mr. Olympia, and I was going to do so naturally and good old fashioned hard work and blah blah blah. And once I got into it, I realized, okay, it's it's not as easy as just going through the process and making these crazy gains. Like, I just physically don't have the genetics to take it to that level. But I still did it, and I still enjoy the process. I mean, like I said, I competed this past July, and I hit a personal best in terms of my conditioning. It wasn't as big as I've been before, but I really nailed my conditioning this time around, and it was the leanest that I was ever on stage, and I'm proud of that. And now I have other goals that I'm working on. So, I mean, I've kind of expanded beyond just the bodybuilding, and now I'm trying to focus on well-rounded fitness. So this past summer has been a really good summer for me in terms of fitness goals, because in July, I competed at the provincial bodybuilding competition, made my comeback in the Masters over 40 division, gotten my best contest conditioning in terms of low body fat and definition. And then in September of this year, I actually competed in our provincial road cycling championships. And that was like two totally ends of the spectrum. But I mean, I like that well-rounded fitness. So, I mean, bodybuilding, road cycling, and I just really enjoy it, right? So, I mean, I'm focusing on that well-rounded fitness. And I mean, obviously, they kind of contradict each other to a degree, but I enjoy it. I enjoy that balance, and it's fun, and it keeps me motivated, keeps me, enthused about working out and making progress. And I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about you and your personal journey, right? Don't get hung up on everybody else and where you place and stuff like that. Because again, like I mentioned, you have no control over that, right? It's all you can do is the best you can, and then let the chips fall where they may. And if you do have the genetics to take it to that level, you'll know after several years of competing, like it'll become apparent, right? If you have what it takes, because you'll start to exceed on the local level and then move on to the regional and so on. And but just take it day by day and enjoy the journey, one competition at a time. And if you want to reach out to me, feel free. Like, you can email me. We can elaborate on this in more detail. Okay, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up, man. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. I know when I get I get the gift of gab sometimes, but hopefully you're enjoying the chat. All right. To clue it up, I'm going to just scroll through and see I'm going to scroll to the bottom, see if we got any other questions there or something that I want to finish off. Last words of wisdom before we clue it up. John is saying, drink another cup of tea. Have 2-hour tea with Lee. No, I'm not going to go 2 hours tonight, guys. Eric is asking, does progressive overload mean an increase in total weight lifted or more weight for each set? Progressive overload basically means you do more than you did before. So it could be meaning you're lifting heavier weight. It could mean you're doing more repetitions. It could mean you're doing more sets, or it could mean you're doing the exact same number of weight sets, reps, and doing so in a less time. So all those things contribute to progressive overload. It just means causing your body to do a greater volume of work output than you did before. Now, the simplest way, like when most people are starting off, I recommend either trying to increase the weight or increase the reps, right? Like a lot of times when I'm suggesting a workout for someone who's new, I might give them a repetition range. I say like, hey, let's work within 10 to 15 repetitions. So you take a given weight and you do sets of 10. And then, in your next workout, try to do sets of 11, and then a set of 12, and then sets 13, 14, 15. Well, by the time you work up to 15 reps, increase the weight, drop the reps back down to 10, and build it back up again. And that's a way of having progressive overload. So it's just increasing the volume of work you're doing over time. But like you could also increase the sets. So like if you're doing 2 sets per exercise as a beginner, and then you work it up to 3 sets per exercise, well, then you just increase the volume. That's a form of progressive overload as well. As you get more advanced, a lot of times people like to do the same volume in less time. So maybe you'll do the exact same workout, but you just shorten up the rest periods in between sets. So you're condensing the workout and getting more volume done per unit of time. And that's another form of progressive overload. But again, it's just about coaxing your body along to do more than it did before. And this is the process of stimulating muscle. Because if you always do the same thing, like let's just say you go into the gym, you pick up a 10-pound dumbbell and you do 10 bicep curls with a 10-pound dumbbell, and that's all you ever do. I mean, initially, okay, that may be heavy enough to spur on some growth, because that might be, progressive overload, because you've done nothing and now all of a sudden you're curling 10 pounds. I mean, maybe that's enough to stimulate growth for someone initially, but very quickly your body's going to adapt to that. And that's just going to be, it's just going to be your normal. It's not going to be enough to actually cause a muscular stimulus response. And this is why sometimes you see people, even though they're physically active with their job, like let's just say you got someone who's doing the garbage man, physical labor job. He picks up a bag of garbage and he throws it in the back of the garbage truck. He picks up a bag of garbage, throws it in the back of the garbage truck. Nowadays we have machines to do all that, but back in the old days, people physically did it by hand. All right, that's physical work. He's literally lifting bags of garbage all day long, but he's not getting bigger and ripped and more jacked year after year after year. He's kind of like stuck in a plateau, because the typical bag of garbage doesn't continually get bigger and stronger. Like there's no progressive overload. It's the same volume of work day after day after day, and his body builds up fitness to handle that volume of work, and then it plateaus. But if he was doing work where the weights were progressively getting heavier and he was forcing his body to grow and expand and perform a greater volume of work, then his fitness level would increase accordingly. So that's why you often see people who do physical labor work. I mean, yeah, they'll get to a certain level, but then they kind of plateau, because they're doing the same thing day in, day out. Even though they're working all day long, it's not new stimulus. It's they're at that plateau where their body's comfortable. In order to grow, you got to stretch that comfort zone. So that's where the whole progressive overload comes into play, where you have to force yourself to try and lift heavier, try and do more, try and coax it along. And there's a fine line here, because you need to do it gradually and progressively, and not try and do too much too soon. Because if you try and lift too much too soon, that's when you can end up getting injured, pulling, straining, tearing something, or you're using poor form, and then you're using like momentum, heaving and jerking, or bringing in other muscle groups to lift the weight, and not stimulating the isolated muscle that you're trying to target. Prime example, like if you're taking like bicep curls and you start off with a light weight and you're doing a nice strict bicep curl, but then you increase the weight, but now all of a sudden you got to use your back and your legs and you swing and heave the weight up. Okay, you're lifting more weight, but is it actually more stress on the biceps? Probably not, because you're bringing in all the momentum and assistant muscle groups to do it. You're cheating the weight up. So it's that fine line of increasing the weight while still keeping the form and technique strict in the process. And it takes a bit of practice. It really does. And there's a bit of gray area when it comes to progressive overload. It's not just always a cut and dry thing, but hopefully that helps, right? Like with all these questions, like I'm just kind of scratching the surface on a lot of this stuff. I mean, like we can always unpack it and go another level deeper, and there's depending on your individual situation. And that's one thing I always encourage you. I mean, like for those of you tuning in, I mean, if you want to reach out to me, feel free. You can send me a message and reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you'd like some help and brainstorm some ideas and like unpack this stuff based around you and your situation or whatever. And if you would like some help with a personalized program, or even come on board with our Muscle After 40 coaching program, feel free to reach out to me about that, right? We've got a private group of guys who are going through this program, and it's a nice support team we've got. Like it's a small supportive group of people who are in there, like-minded guys who are all on this journey together, and kind of like camaraderie and support, helping each other and encouraging each other to progress. And it's a nice community that we got going on. So if you're interested in coming on board with that, reach out to me, let me know, and we can have a chat. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. I know there's still a ton of questions there that I didn't get around to answering. So if I didn't answer your question, I do apologize. But guess what? I'll be back again next week, same time, same place, for another live video chat. In the meantime, have yourself a good weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Over and out. Boom.